Invaders from beyond the worlds of both the living and the dead, the Infernals represent the greatest threat, both real and existential, ever faced by the people of Western Immoren. They step onto Caen through portals of darkness and smoke, and wherever they strive, reality warps and tears. Any who behold the Infernals is at risk of madness, as the mind struggles to process impossible sensations and stave off a palpable aura of dread. They're nearly incomprehensible alien beings, each possessed of tremendous power, patience, and demonstrating utter ruthlessness. Their careful plans span centuries, with the roots of their present invasion reaching back more than 30 human generations to when they first struck their bargain with the dark goddess Thamar. They see no value in life. They have long lurked in the outer abyss, watching the people of Caen and coveting their souls, which to them was their ultimate resource. Though normally barred from the physical world of the living, Infernals have devised ways of breaking through the cosmological barriers that separate them. They barter with mortals called Infernalists, who are taught the rituals to summon them, and who are rewarded in turn with boons. The only way to barter with the Infernals is to offer them souls, an Infernalist's own, and those of myriad victims they seize and sacrifice. Even the necromancy of Crix pales before the unholy horror of the Infernals. For centuries, Infernals have plotted and schemed from a distance, feared by all, but rarely seen. That has changed with the claiming now that is upon Immoren. Having broken through the barriers between worlds with the help of their hapless human agents, the Infernals have come to tip the balance on Caen once and for all. For eons, they jealously watched souls slip from the mortal realms to the halls of their gods. Hungry for this most valued resource, they reckon their debt is due. This debt originated with the Orgoth occupation, when all the inhabitants of Western Immoren were made slaves, and their gods could do little but look on and aghast. These tyrants were ultimately thwarted through divine arrangements made with Infernals that facilitated human magic. But salvation came with a deferred price, one that is now being paid in full. Before there was Caen or even urcaen, there was only darkness, a great infernal abyss. In this abyss swirled knots of dense spiritual energy. Which in time accumulated and became conscience. The first impulse this consciousness felt was malice. Beings stirred in the void and became self-aware, each realizing that they were not alone, but instead surrounded. They were self-born into conflict and strife. Those that could outwit others around them, either to evade or consume their rivals, endured, becoming stronger, smarter, and capable of actions subtle and obscene. Some learned to survive by surrendering to their betters, by offering to serve, and so a crude hierarchy emerged. It was in this crucible the Infernals came to be. Nothing is known with certainty of this primordial state of being, but it is thought that it predates all life. The outer abyss coalesced into a realm unique to itself, apart from and with its own fundamental laws quite distinct from other more familiar realms that would emerge later on, giving rise to both gods and mortals. Though to say so is considered heretical or even blasphemous, the origins of the Infernals may not be so dissimilar to those of the first primordial gods, who were also self-born from the darkness from vast pools of spiritual energy. Though priests of the major faiths would never credit this fact, there might not be much difference between entities like Menoth, Dunia, and Devourer Worm, and the elder Infernals aside from their relationship with the souls of mortals connected to them. The first infernal societies formed before even Caen existed, and others have risen and fallen in the intervening eons. These groups are paranoid and intrusting by human reckoning, arise when individual Infernals learn the value of banding together to pool resources and power. The shape of infernal society does not resemble anything crafted by the sentient races of Caen. There is no sense of kinship between Infernals, no bonds of loyalty, love, or civic duty. Only temporary stability reinforced through intimidation, calculation, and long-laid schemes. Even cruel beings of the scorn have values and virtues unknown to the Infernals, who do not possess concepts of trust, honor, and commitment. Whatever their ethos, it is largely inscrutable to mortals. Ascribing to them the motives of lesser beings can be a fatal mistake. The Infernals' perspective is truly and utterly alien. The scope and number of infernal societies is unknown to the peoples of Caen. The majority of Immoren's contact with these beings has been with the Nonocarean Order, a society that has revealed little of its inner workings. This order is thought to be one of the more powerful organizations within the Outer Abyss. It is engaged in indeterminable wars with potential rivals. For untold millennia, infernal societies have fought for supremacy, survival, and a greater share of the vast extra-worldly soul markets. Such conflicts persist, fueled by trading in souls that have been seized from other worlds. Mortals have often been caught up in these conflicts, always to their detriment. Greater infernals can manifest only on Caen for short periods of time, before reality itself forces them back into the abyss. Because the material world is antithetical to these beings, physical manifestation requires the mortal servants to first open a gate to the outer abyss by enacting exact and complex rituals that poison the mind and the spirit. When a greater infernal manifests on Caen, their force of will and power is such that the world warps around them, becoming temporarily as fluid as the abyss. Witnessing this happen can provoke psychic turmoil in mortals, shattering their fragile minds. From their dark and strange realm, greater infernals use their occult powers to peer into neighboring realities, worlds like Caen and others as well. In the forgotten ancient past, when this transpired, the Infernals were filled with envy by what they saw on both Caen and urcaen. The spiritual energy that is their essence and currency is abundant in places that teem with life. It flows in great tidal torrents between the worlds of the living and the realms of the afterlife. Infernals do not exist as part of this cosmological reality. This gives them certain advantages, but has led to a plurality of raw spiritual essence in the outer abyss, where every scrap is fought over and hoarded. From their perspective, Caen and urcaen represent a vast, untapped reservoir, one they desire to plunder. The tangible horrors Infernals create to fight their wars, either against other Infernals or when invading other worlds, are made possible by the harvesting of immortal souls. The souls of an intelligent being is dense with enriched spiritual energy. To the Infernals, this is a resource that can sustain all of their industry and serve as the foundation for their very reality. Corporeal bodies are viewed by Infernals as an inferior and unimportant side effect of life. The body is just an anchor that holds the soul for a brief span of the material world. In death, the soul is liberated from the flesh, which is cast aside to rot. Valuable as they are, however, souls are also slippery and elusive. On Caen, most souls of the slain seek to pass into urcaen. Infernals have had to learn to interfere with this process, developing techniques to mystically mark souls for their collection. The conflicts between mortals are viewed as insignificant to them, aside from the opportunities they offer for the acquisition of souls. While mortal wars can provide a glut of them, in most cases the majority of these souls will escape their clutches. It has required long and carefully laid plans to arrange for greater harvests, and many of the greatest conflicts across Caen have been part of the machinations of these timeless beings of the outer abyss. By peering into other realities, Infernals learn how to send tendrils of thought past the barriers that separate the abyss from other worlds. They gathered information and deduced methods to communicate indirectly with thinking beings in these places, through dark mirrors, by invading dreams with whispered thoughts, or sometimes by manifesting secret glyphs and runes hidden within other writings to be deciphered by power-hungry occultists. In time, Infernals mastered ways to tear holes in reality with the assistance of mortals on their side, creating portals and gateways that would allow them to visit Caen directly. By such techniques, Infernals could be summoned, at least for a brief period of time. Infernal manifestations on other worlds are difficult to arrange and are temporary, less like actual transit and more like casting a reflection upon a stagnant pond. From their abyssal realm, Infernals siphon souls offered to them by their supplicants in other worlds, bringing in an influx of this vast spiritual resource. For centuries, the Infernals have bartered with mortals on Caen, offering boons of power in exchange for payment in souls. This has become their primary focus and most important avocation, a cycle of predatory harvesting that is unending. For untold millennia, they have preyed upon the countless other worlds and realities, mastering subtle temptations and more forceful invasive techniques, all to steal the spiritual essence that they can shape like clay. Infernals are the ultimate parasites and seducers, exploiting their own immortality to cull other worlds, first with smaller contracts and small requests, but eventually bringing wholesale ruin. Each contract they make, each foreign soul they steal, is a small piece of a larger, vaster puzzle. In contrast to the Infernals, the gods of urcaen exist in relative luxury. Though theirs is a realm of endless conflict as well, they are connected to a thriving spiritual ecosystem engendered by proximity to Caen, which teems with life. Urcaen and Caen exist in symbiosis, each one side of a conjoined mirror. Spiritual energy flows between the two amid acts of divine creation, and shaping then back to urcaen after the living perish. Some spiritual energies, such as that found in lesser animals and beasts, remain on Caen and is recycled through the goddess Dunia. This is also true of the souls of those devoted to the goddess. But the souls of most thinking beings return to urcaen in a cycle that is fundamental to cosmology. Life multiplies and spiritual energy grows, strengthened by the strife between predator and prey, by birth and death. The gods benefit from this cycle and are strengthened by the souls connected to their worship. Infernals view this cycle with hatred and envy. It places a vast supply of spiritual energy beyond their grasp. Thus the gods have ever been the greatest enemies to the Infernals. From the beginning, infernal societies have worked from the shadows to undermine the gods, seeking to infiltrate their worshippers, to test the barriers between realms and exploit any weakness they can find. They fostered infernalism wherever their message could reach the minds of the inquisitive, power-hungry, and the desperate occultists. Many of these efforts were individually small and easily overlooked, but in the aggregate, they advanced subtle plans. These plots to secure mortals were accomplished by larger and more elaborate schemes to besiege the gods dwelling in urcaen and to undermine the fates that reinforced the barriers protecting Caen. The greatest struggle in Immoren history, the Orgoth invasion and later its rebellion, can be viewed in the context of strife between two specific infernal societies. The Orgoth were empowered by their dark gods, understood by some infernalists belonging to a group called the Felgoeth. These tyrants were ultimately overthrown, thanks to the gift of magic negotiated between Thamar and the rulers of the infernal Nonocarenian order. Much of Immoren's suffering in the depths of thousands can be attributed to the competition between these two groups and the mortals who serve them. And the events leading up to the current invasion on Caen are also deeply rooted in this struggle, one that extends back long before the rise of the Orgoth Empire. The Nonocarenian Order was the first group to succeed in threatening the souls of urcaen, exploiting a vulnerability in the Veld, a region in urcaen inhabited by the Elven Divine Court. Though these gods kept the cause a secret from their mortal worshippers, infernal intrusions prompted their exodus from urcaen, resulting in a great cataclysm that destroyed the great elven empire of Lyos, but also thwarted the Nonocarenian Order for a time. Desperate measures undertaken by the elven gods prevented additional intrusions into urcaen and safeguarded the souls of the fallen dead, though at a great cost of lives. The Felgoeth subsequently gained a considerable lead over their rivals millennia later by securing influence over the Orgoth Empire, the dominant human civilization on Caen at its height. The Nonocarenian Order was nearly eclipsed and defeated by its rival until it was able to secure a pivotal contract with the twins, Maro and Thamar, a pair of ascended Immoren gods. Facing the extinction of their faiths and driven to desperate measures, Morrow agreed with Thamar to utilize extraordinary measures to empower humans of Western Immoren with the gift of magic in order to overthrow the Orgoth. Thamar entered into negotiations with the cadre Architectia, among the highest leaders of the Nonocarean order, and eventually secured the gift for humanity. The contract she sealed was vast and far-reaching, with commiserate costs. By this arrangement was humanity given magic, and soon Mechanica was developed, the great first colossals built and the Orgoth driven from Immoren. The Nonocarean order rose to dominance, while the Felgoeth faltered and waned, retreating back into the shadows. Though Thamar's bargain enabled the eventual defeat of the Orgoth, all sides understood it for what it was, a countdown to inevitable hostilities. Struck between master negotiators operating in the absence of good faith, the gods of Caen were set to pay a price too dear to bear. For the Infernals, no quantity of souls could ever slake their thirsts. Both sides immediately began to prepare for the reckoning, with the gods girding their worshippers for a great conflict, and the Infernals preparing methods for casting the gods themselves from Caen so they may yet claim the entire bounty for themselves. The Infernals are aware that both Morrow and Thamar seek to renege on their agreement and intend to fight to avoid paying what was promised. The gods have drawn upon their reserves to send divine champions to protect the mortals of Caen. Armies of great power have been raised on both sides, and the Infernals intend to claim their due. All owed debts are being called in, with Infernalists being revealed at nearly every layer of Immore's society. Hello fellow Warmahorde fans, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe below, and hit that bell notification to let you know when I drop my next video. Also, if you're still new to Warmahordes, make sure to check out my other Warmahorde lore videos found in both the description and on screen. Thank you and enjoy your day.